We don't have Terry Stone on here yet.
Is someone reaching? All right. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining our Board of Education educational meeting today on April 13th, 2020. I'm Jan Kauk. I'm president of the board. And in these unusual times, due to the guidelines from the CDC, the board is participating through video conferencing, and the meeting will be live streamed through the district's YouTube channel. A direct link to that site is posted on all our district digital platforms. But if for some reason you are unable to link in, the board meeting at the Doolin Room remains open and accessible for you to view the live stream. Recording of this meeting will be available on the district website after the meeting and to be viewed at your convenience. So now I would like to officially call this meeting to order, and we are pleased to have Dr. Amy Casey, elementary principal at Ravenwood of the Home of the Ravens, share their Pledge of Allegiance with us this evening.
All right, everybody, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Casey. And now, Madam President, or Madam Secretary, I'm sorry, would you please call the roll?
Okay, I can't get back to it. Sorry. There we go. Miss Youngers.
Here.
Miss Wardick.
Here.
Miss Reinhardt.
Here.
Mr. Stone. Mr. Harrell.
Here.
Dr. Ward.
Here.
Miss Kauk.
Here. And Mr. Stone will be joining us. He's having a little technical difficulty, I believe. At the regular meeting of the board, we invite public comment. At our educational meeting, we do not usually ask for public comment, but I do invite the public in these extraordinary times to use one of our online forums called Let's Talk to communicate with us and to the staff. The answers to your questions will be addressed as soon as possible, and those to the board will be addressed at the next regular meeting of the board on April 28th. Thank you for continuing to be in dialogue with us, and we appreciate hearing from you directly. We have had to forgo some celebrations and recognitions in our past few weeks, and one of our most coveted awards and recognitions is the Culture of Excellence Award, in which we have several honor cadres that consist of both teachers as well as service staff that we recognize. This year, those individuals were submitted an application from their colleagues, and then a committee narrowed the recommendations down to 19 teachers and 19 service staff. These are exemplary individuals in our within our district, and I am sorry we've not been able to personally recognize you at a board meeting, but we did want to give this moment to recognize you and say how much we appreciate you. We have been listing your names and faces on Facebook for others to appreciate them and to reach out to them. Again, I send our heartiest congratulations to each of them and recognize their service to our district, and invite the public and your colleagues to like their pictures on Facebook, or please leave a comment.
There we go. Thank you.
All right, and does your microphone, does it say muted? Like if you need to talk, you can click the button to unmute?
Can't tell yet.
Okay.
We can hear you.
She can hear me.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, let you go. Have a good day. Bye.
Hi, Jan.
Hello, welcome to the meeting. We're
Thank you.
live. I'm giving just a few little announcements here before we start. Additional to the honor cadres, we also recognize outstanding volunteers and business partners, and this year is no exception. We're recognizing Mayor Carol Suter of the City of Gladstone and Brian Mercer as Volunteers of the Year this year. They had both served as co-chairs of our Kansas City School District Zero Tax Increase Bond Campaign and Citizens Committee. That election is now to be held on June 2nd, but we do recognize Carol and Brian and their outstanding contribution. They both have a real affinity for supporting the district, and Brian also serves as PTA Council President, representing district parents and connecting community to schools. Our business partner for 2020 is the Clay County Children's Service Fund. Their board and their executive director, Kathy Mackin, have allocated grant funds from the quarter-cent tax approved by Clay County voters, which allows, in our case, the district to provide counseling, family support, and help of temporary shelter assistance to children and youth up to age 19. As a result, the district has been able to consistently and effectively respond to mental health concerns of our students and offer support to their families. We thank this business partner, Clay County Children's Service Fund, again for their support. One other partner that was not a part of the Culture of Excellence Awards, but also deserves a shout out, are our district parents and families in support of their students. In these extraordinary times, we have found we have outstanding families, not only in the good times, but in these times as well. And you've been outstanding partners the past weeks as we've transitioned to e-learning and handling the stressful news that school is out of session for this school year. Without the support and involvement of you, the parents and families, this transition would have been much more difficult. As a board, we acknowledge and thank you for being engaged partners in your child's education and for your ongoing support of this district as we experience a new normal. At this point, I would also like to mention that we have 4 candidates that are vying for 2 positions on our Board of Education. These 4 candidates, in order that they will appear on the ballot, include incumbent Terry Stone, incumbent Dixie Youngers, Anessa DeLong, and Carrie Gleason. There will be a candidate forum prior to the June 2nd election that will allow you to get acquainted with these candidates. And we will be posting information on that at a later time, but we do encourage you to get out and vote. That is all of our special announcements for now, and we will now proceed with the agenda as presented to you. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
That was moved by Ms. Youngers and second by Dr. Ward to approve the agenda as presented. May I hear roll call?
Ms. Youngers,
Yes.
Ms. Wardick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Harrell,
Yes.
Dr. Ward,
Yes.
Ms. Kauk.
Yes. Motion carries and we have approved the agenda. Moving on to the consent agenda. There are 4 items on the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Youngers and seconded by Dr. Ward. The 4 items on the consent agenda are construction management agreement with McCowan Gordon Construction, ratification of the T-Mobile for educational agreement for hotspots, McCowan Gordon GMP amendment for early childhood center, and the DLR agreement for early childhood center. Is there any discussion on any of these items? Hearing none, roll call please for approval of these 4 items on the consent agenda.
Ms. Youngers,
Yes.
Ms. Wardick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Harrell,
Yes.
Dr. Ward,
Yes.
Ms. Calc.
Yes. Thank you. They've been approved. Moving right along under new business is our Board of Education resolution. And I believe Dr. Ward was going to begin with that resolution.
Yes, Madam President. If I might, whereas the Board of Education of the North Kansas City School District number 74 pauses at this extraordinary time, COVID-19 pandemic, to recognize the administration, staff, and community and honor them for their contribution to the education of over 21,000 students attending North Kansas City schools, giving generously of their time and talents, even during spring break, to create and execute a plan to provide learning, nutrition, and stability to our students during these uncertain times. And
whereas the board recognizes our district's mission is to be a champion for all children, to ensure that all are life-ready and ethically grounded in an ever-changing world through innovation, educational experiences that inspire lifelong learning, embrace inclusion, and forge a unified community. And whereas the board recognizes the outstanding leadership of the superintendent and his cabinet and all the persons on their individual teams for their excellent commitment of putting together a crisis plan that addresses the learning, social, emotional, and physical needs of our students to guide the district forward this school year. And
whereas the building principals, teachers, and staff have all risen to the occasion and put students' needs first. They have worked diligently to ensure every student continues their learning through virtual classes. They have brought creativity and enthusiasm to the task, supporting one another in teaching teams and serving as champions to all students as we are #better together. And whereas all staff have not only considered the learning goals of our students, but also their social and emotional needs, making themselves available to counsel and encourage students and their families throughout this difficult time. And
whereas various departments have teamed together to support our children's health, safety, and nutrition by delivering over 8,000 meals 5 days a week, making food available to every student district-wide. And whereas persons in other departments have facilitated and coordinated communications, policies, finance, and operations, working tirelessly with their teams to ensure the students, staff, and families in our district are connected and well served as #1 North KC Schools. And
whereas all staff with responsibilities for the good of the district are valued in their roles, that their talents are resourced and they stand ready to serve, that all systems and departments remain functional, supplies on hand, our facilities are maintained, and we are ready for students' return. And whereas the board recognizes our business and governmental partners who provided additional bandwidth and Wi-Fi access for virtual learning, health advisement, legislative support, and other advice that allow the district to implement its crisis plan with professionalism and assurances that learning could continue in a safe, equitable environment for the good of all. And
whereas the board recognizes the importance of schools in neighborhoods and values them as our community partners to achieve the greater good and ensure that safety, stability, quality of life, and health prevail. Therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education of North Kansas City Schools, number 74, extends our sincere gratitude to every employee and their family, to our district's community neighborhoods and businesses for their exemplary dedication and personal sacrifice on behalf of the students of this school district, that the mission is fulfilled even in extraordinary times such as these.
Hearing this resolution, I now would entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution as read.
So moved. T.
It's been moved by Mr. Stone and seconded
Second?
by Ms. Youngers. All those in, oh, I think we'll do a roll call on this, please. Sorry.
Ms. Youngers,
Yes.
Ms. Wardick,
Yes.
Ms. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Harrell,
Yes.
Dr. Ward,
Yes.
Ms. Calc.
Yes. Therein witness, therefore, the board has now passed this resolution on the 13th day of April in the year of our Lord, 2020, with its corporate seal and thereby affixed and executed on the name by it with its proper officials. Board of Education, North Kansas City Schools, number 74, Jan Cow, President, attested by Peggy Cole, Secretary Clerk. Thank you very much, and thank you to all those who are mentioned for extraordinary service in this resolution. All right. We are now on to number 5, board discussion topics, and Dr. Clemens and his team are going to spend the remainder of our board meeting sharing update on the COVID-19. Dr. Clemens.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to our 21,000 kids, our parents, our caregivers, and the 3,500 best employees the school district could ask for. And I know I speak for them when I say thank you to the board for the resolution. We certainly appreciate you thinking of us as we're trying to support our learners. I'd like to kind of start off by saying, man, it's been a roller coaster ride the last few weeks, and we certainly have had our ride. It's left questions among superintendents throughout our nation. Is this the new normal? And I thought by starting tonight, I might just go through the timeline of what's occurred in about the last 30 days, and then move into how we're anticipating supporting the next 30 days or until we get back to business as usual. So the week of March 9th, Academic Services was working together to develop a plan for e-learning just in case we might need it. And then soon after that, March 13th, a letter was sent to, from elementary principals and to our teachers that said, let's make sure our kindergarten through second grade take home their iPads just in case they might need them over spring break or something might occur with COVID-19. On March 17th, Mayor Lucas issued the state of emergency, closing schools till April 3rd. At that point, it was very good that all of our kindergarten through second grade students had iPads and that we have Canvas and Seesaw to support our learners. March 16th through the 20th was spring break. Cabinet worked to develop communication plans on how we would educate our kids as well as food delivery plans. On March 23rd, we opened our first day of e-learning. On April 3rd, data from about 10,000 surveys that Dr. Daniels will share later from our kids, our parents, and our teachers showed we were overwhelming people just a little bit with our first couple of weeks of e-learning. On April 6th, we implemented changes to our e-learning. Monday, where we reserved for more professional learning teams, some collaborative time, some teacher feedback and professional development, where the other 4 days were reserved for new lessons. On April 7th, in collaboration with Clay County, we entered into phase 2 of our feeding plan, which was just today. And we are feeding now at 12 sites rather than having more transportation into our local communities. On April 9th, the governor closed all the public schools and charter schools for the remainder of the year. And it seems like that was forever ago, but that was just 4 days. And so now we're starting to think about how we're changing education to continue to meet kids through the 22nd. You'll hear many things about that. I'd just like to start off by saying our community has been extremely supportive during the last month as we continue to ask them to work with us. The only certain is that we have change ahead. We'd also like to thank our communications department, our teachers, Brian Mercer, and others that are sharing pertinent information as we continue to revise the way we think of education. You know, I'm not sure what will happen between now and the last 5 weeks of school, May 22nd, but I think there's real opportunity to support learning in the next 5 weeks and continue to make school a special place for our learners. Reentry is going to be critical, as we talked about in cabinet today. There's no doubt some of our learners will need some additional supports as they return to school. In this time of uncertainty, we got to continue to have open lines of communication. We need to be agile as time seems to be key. We also need to remind, although not popular, data is our friend rather than acting with emotion. We know that graduation for our 4 schools is very, very important. The future is uncertain. We're staying close to Clay County Health Department, the CDC's, Mayor Lucas, and determining the best course of action. We hope to have something out by Friday of this week. But I'll remind everybody that Iceland is testing most of their population, which has resulted in 50% positives with no real systematic issue, or I'm sorry, symptoms that are occurring. I'm sorry. I'll also remind you that China has lessened some of their stay-at-home orders and now starting to see some resurgence in cases. And so with that, Madam President, I'd like to turn over some of our conversations to Dr. Daniels, where she can share a little bit about our surveys that were distributed and then move on from there.
Absolutely.
Good evening. In uncharted territory like this, we thought it wise to engage some of our stakeholders and conduct a temperature check of sorts. So we put together a quick survey for our parents, our students, and then our staff members. We wanted to remind them that even in this type of instance, we're all about continuous improvement and impeccable service. We had 5,357 students, K through 12, respond to the survey. We had nearly 4,000 parents, and then 1,534 staff members. So quite a range there wanting to give us feedback. Students overwhelmingly said that they were enjoying e-learning. They are missing their friends and teachers, however. The majority of students in grades 3 through 12 estimated that they're spending between 3 and 5 hours on assignments each day. Most of our K2 students claimed that they were working 3 or fewer hours daily. 86% of our kids have had an adult from school reach out to check in on them specifically. 1/3 of all students claim that e-learning is harder when compared with traditional instruction. 1/3 see it as having the same level of difficulty, and then 1/3 think it's easier. We asked if they needed more or less time to connect with classmates and work on assignments. They all asked for more time as opposed to having something to do for each core class daily. They just wanted time to catch up and connect overall. Parents were overwhelmingly positive as well. There's been a great amount of praise for our teachers, the food delivery system, and the ability of North Kansas City schools to quickly transition in a productive manner. In tremendous appreciation for all that they expressed, there was also a tone of underlying stress. The parent results talked a lot about how difficult it is to facilitate learning for your own students while working a full-time job, often at home now. They certainly did not ask for more rigor in any instance. If anything, they asked for more time to process the change that we're all experiencing. And then open-ended comments specifically mentioned a day in the week where their students could catch up on assignments or projects. Staff members, they were also very proud of North Kansas City Schools and expressed a lot of appreciation to even work here. 43% estimated that their workload was more than 7 hours a day currently. Teachers then came out asking for more time to collaborate, citing feelings of being overwhelmed. And again, a similar comment to what parents said, the new balancing of roles was of challenge to them. 44% of employees identified as being concerned yet able to function. Our classified employees were thankful for the options that they had to work, and they loved seeing camaraderie across roles as people were really coming together to serve our families. Much like parents, though, they spoke of that balance being the most difficult part of all of it. As you know, as a result of that, we changed the way that Mondays functioned within the school district. And I believe we've seen more positive sentiment, especially with social media comments about that. I'd like to just share with you briefly a little bit about Let's Talk and then social media. In the last 30 days, we have seen a 334% increase in Let's Talk dialogues related to the coronavirus. And then whereas our average Facebook post used to reach on average about 4,000 people, we're now reaching 9,000. Twitter looks similarly with a reach of about 8,000 as opposed to 3,000. The contributing factor on both of those is the number of shares that we're seeing. And this has been really nice because essentially the community is helping to amplify whatever messages we put out there. As you might guess, the vast majority of questions on either platform, they relate to prom, graduation, and summer school. Prior to the governor's closure announcement, there was great fear about allowing students to return to our sites before families felt comfortable. So they've been pleased with the announcement and knowing that we will do all that we can to put their children in the best environment possible upon return. The overall sentiment is just a message of support and appreciation. There's been such a sense of community. People have been so complimentary of our commitment to taking care of their kids and their families in these times. Finally, teachers have shared a lot of advantages about e-learning. It's been nice to see examples where they've talked about students who normally struggle. They're thriving in this more self-paced, open-ended environment. And Dr. Sutton's going to tell you a lot more about that.
Well, good evening. I just wanted to start by saying how proud I am of our classroom teachers, our administrators, academic services staff, and so many others that have contributed to such a successful transition to e-learning. It's really hard to believe that as we left for spring break and turned off the lights, that we came back from spring break, turned on the lights, and we are in a completely different environment, one that was not known and one that we have not experienced before. And I've been just so proud of the transition that our teachers have made, because the constant in both before spring break and after spring break during e-learning is that our teachers continue to provide our students with high quality learning experiences. And I'm so proud of them and the work that they are doing. You know, COVID-19 is definitely causing us to service our staff and our parents a little bit differently. And as you have seen, we have started some e-learning series for both our teachers and for our parents. And essentially what we are doing on a weekly basis is gathering feedback from our teachers to learn a little bit more about their needs. This is a huge transition. There's a lot of tools and a lot of new experiences for our teachers. So we're gathering that feedback from them. And then based on their feedback, we're designing professional development sessions that are about 30 minutes in length throughout the course of the week. And last week, we offered 9 professional development sessions for our teachers, and we had over 240 teachers engaged in professional development last week. And so that was really exciting to see. And then we also know that there's a need for our families. We have a tremendous amount of resources in North Kansas City with counselors, community agencies, our teachers, our principals that can really support our families. Last week was our first week of a parent university, and we had 8 sessions for last week, and we ended up with over 250 enrollments in our parent university last week. So we were really excited about that level of engagement. And last week was really focused on tools such as Seesaw and Canvas, and we sprinkled in a little bit of how to support your students during e-learning, where this week we continue to focus on with sessions that have to do with supporting your kids during e-learning, but also a little bit of college and career readiness, and then also some mental health support for our families and just giving them strategies of how to best support their kids, as this is a very difficult time and challenging experience for many of them as well. So really proud of all of our staff that are engaging and developing these sessions for our parents. And I can definitely see that these will become something that we do from this point on for our families. Is we want to find innovative ways to support them the best that we can, not just now, but in the future as well. Engagement with regards to our students is still strong. On any given day, we have approximately 75% of our students that log in. Now, keep in mind that with e-learning, it's asynchronous. So we have a lot of students that maybe will just log on 4 days a week, some 3 days a week to complete their work. It's not necessary that they log on 5 days a week, but we're seeing engagement rates still high. We do have some students that we're working with and families where engagement levels may not be high, but all of our buildings have plans to reach out and support those students. In terms of graduation, my heart goes out to the senior class I cannot even begin to imagine the emotions that they have experienced throughout the past several weeks. And they are certainly at the forefront of my thoughts. I know Dr. Clemens' thoughts, your thoughts, the principal's thoughts, cabinet's thoughts, all of our thoughts as we continue to think about the future and the next several weeks, especially with regards to graduation. And I've been working tirelessly with our building principals, and they are engaging their families and engaging seniors this week to continue to collect feedback so that we can come back to them with the very best plan to recognize them for their accomplishments. And again, thank you to the Board of Education for your support in all of this work. We have felt it, and yeah, your support has been fantastic. So thank you. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Hilbitz.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sutton. When it comes to helping students, parents, and staff deal with anxiety, stress, and mental health issues, our SCRSs and counselors and community partners have always been happy to do whatever they could to help our folks get through tough times. I'm going to go ahead and actually hand it to Janelle Porter real quick to talk about what our SCRSs or social workers and counselors are doing. Janelle?
Thanks, Dr. Hilbitz. Our school community resource specialists have been assisting in the coordination of the distribution of all of the district meals and are frequently found on the sites of those deliveries. They've been distributing over 4,700 Harvesters back snack meals to our families. They're connecting with all 600 of our homeless students to ensure that their needs are met and connecting them with the districts in which they live if needed. They're continuing to conduct suicide risk screenings, and they're making home visits to students that need additional resources. Our counselors, K-12, are all connecting with students and families online. Our secondary counselors have Canvas courses created specifically to counseling and are posting information regularly in these courses. All of our elementary counselors are set up as co-teachers in their schools' classrooms on Seesaw and are getting lessons and activities out to students and parents regularly. Our counselors are meeting and collaborating on a regular basis to discuss issues related to graduation and college acceptance and are getting that information to our parents and students.
We have been truly blessed by the Children's Services Fund and the amount of resources that they've been able to bring to our district. We are especially lucky that in this time of need, they're willing to be flexible and help us out. We had a handful of our families who could not access the internet. So although they had our devices and their teachers were ready for them, they were struggling being able to connect. We were able to talk to them, and very generously, they've been allowing us to move tens of thousands of dollars over to acquire the hotspots necessary to make sure that every student in our district had the capability of accessing the internet so that they could connect with their teachers and their work. Synergy Services, one of our providers that supported through Children's Services Fund dollars, their therapists have reached out to clients and their guardians to schedule telehealth sessions. Synergy staff have reached out to students who participate in small group sessions, and they will continue working with these students on mindfulness and self-regulation and coping skills. And their prevention teams are recording lessons each week, and they share those with teachers and students. Tri-County Mental Health, their intake clinician is currently working in the process of completing intakes remotely. She continues to notify schools of progress that she's making in getting a hold of families and establishing a timeline for intakes to occur. Individual services, including individual therapy, substance use, and case management, is being provided by Tri-County, most of which is being done through a telehealth mode, very similar to what our teachers are doing in providing instruction, using our devices and the internet to connect with them. They're also reaching out to offer individual services in place of group therapy, which a lot of those kids were getting. I'd also like to tell you a little bit about summer school, if I could. I was lucky enough to be asked to be on committee that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education had to talk about what we might do this summer for summer school. And the good news that came out of our task force meeting here just last week was that all the hours that we collect through summer school, whether we do this through virtual means or blended means or face-to-face means, will all be able to count towards ADA, which is our average daily attendance. So that's good news for us. It means that we'll be able to pay for the summer school services that we provide. What those summer school services will look like, we're not quite sure exactly yet. Been meeting with the academic services team and the technology team, and we're thinking of a blend of services, some of which are going to be done remotely, some of which hopefully will be able to be done face-to-face. So we're excited about the possibilities, but we also don't want to just blindly guess at what our teachers are going to be ready for and our students and families are going to be ready for. So we're sending out some surveys here to staff and to parents to see where they're at with the notion of summer learning. And we promise to put together the most robust program that we can to make sure our kids are as caught up and ready for the beginning of school as possible. I am ready to turn the presentation over to Dr. Evans. Dr. Evans.
Thanks, Perry. Just like Dr. Clemens mentioned about the food distribution, we are in phase 2. Today was the first day in phase 2. Basically, the differences are we had 4 drop and go sites or pick up and go sites, and those 4 were the high schools. What we've done is we've added 8 additional sites, and we've added some time. It was a 2-hour window at the 4 high schools initially for the first 3 weeks. At this point now, at the 12 sites, there's a 3-hour window from 10 to 1. So I don't have a lot of data for you as far as what our numbers were. As you guys know from the Friday memo, we averaged a little over 8,000 meals a day, which is breakfast and lunch. I guess that's 16,000 meals. For the first 3 weeks, we used 160 buses, and we went to a lot of places. And with this phase, we still wanted to hit as many areas of our district as possible. We know that there's going to be some challenges for some of our families to be able to get to those 12 sites. So we are working with the principals and Dr. Hilvitz and Janelle and their team, along with Director McLeese and his team, to make sure that when we get feedback and we know some areas that may not be able to go to one of these sites, that we're able to service those folks as well, either with our community resources or us as a school district. So this was day 1. We went out there, Dr. Vokalek, myself, Director McLeese, we were out going to different sites today. It was steady. It wasn't incredibly busy, but steady, which is basically the feedback we got from the 4 high schools from their drop and go for the first 3 weeks. But we will see what the numbers look like this week and continue to work with the building principals and their communities to make sure that we are able to serve as many students and their families as we can through this phase 2 operation. I again want to thank our food service folks, our transportation folks, and a lot of our classified staff that were on the buses. Those folks signed up for this phase 2 to be out distributing the food at the 12 sites. Walked through or drove through some of those areas today, and they are a great face to see when you're coming up there for our community. They're just happy to help, very engaged, are ready to meet and greet our families and our students with the food distribution. And we have a lot of those folks that I want to thank as well, because They are on the front lines of this process and operation. We are now beginning our discussion with food service, with transportation, and with Dr. Hilvitz about summer school, because we know there's going to be a phase 3 and what that looks like. But as we reminded the board on last Friday, our supply chain is strong right now still. And since the last day of school is going to be May 22nd, we feel food service feels like our supply chains are going to be strong. We'll be able to make it through May 22nd with our families. So again, we're going to work on phase 3 now, and that probably will include, as we transition, and what we can service this summer for our students and what that looks like. But again, I want to thank this team, because it was all hands on deck there for a while, and we really appreciate it. I appreciate everything that the cabinet has done, the board has done, and especially those folks out in food service and transportation who put this plan together and implemented it. It was a really something to see in that short a time. We also have a construction update, and with that, Jeff Vandal is here to kind of give us some exciting news about what's happening this week, and then on into the summer as well. So Jeff?
Right, thank you, Dr. Evans. Construction continues on. Norclay has been under construction for a while, and much of that demolition is complete. The underfloor plumbing for the wrestling locker room is complete. Some of the metal stud framing is going up now, and it's on target to finish the end of July. Also today, we opened bids for the demolition of South Campus. The old Methodist church had really good bid coverage. Saw some good numbers come through. The abatement of the church is complete, and we have a verbal clearance. We're still waiting for a written clearance from our environmental consultants so we can file that with the city of North Kansas City. But this project is scheduled to complete the first part of August. And so the numbers we open today, those bids we open today, we will be taken to the April 28th board meeting for your consideration. And should those get approved, we will begin demolition immediately after that. So the first part of May, we will see that building start to come down. On the next bond, the Early Childhood Center, thank you for approving those consent agenda items tonight. That will allow us to begin some demolition out there this week. Thursday is when we plan to start that. Price Chopper still has a little bit of a few shelves they're going to move out tomorrow and the next day. And so we'll get in there on Thursday. We have the permit for the roofing and demolition, so we can get that going, and we'll get some other trades underway soon. Last time we were together, we had a discussion on some of the deferred maintenance projects that are part of this next bond. We weren't sure how many of those we were going to be able to do this summer. We have a little bit clearer picture of that now. I think if we have a successful bond election, we will take some things to the June 9th board meeting for your consideration, and that'll look like some roofing projects, some paving projects, and some playground replacements. I think if we get approval at that early June board meeting, we'll still have time this summer to get a lot of that work in as well. What we'll see pushed to the following summer are some restroom upgrades, some flooring replacements, and then some fire alarm replacements. Other than that, the design projects, those are still on track and underway. So that's the construction update. And so now I will turn it over to Tammy Henderson.
Hi, sorry about that. I forgot that I was on mute. You know, every year when the legislature comes to an end, we hear legislators, reporters, and lobbyists say that the Missouri legislative session that ended was the strangest one ever. Truthfully, after this year, I don't think any of them can make that claim ever again. The Missouri legislature has seen some really odd things happening this year. Number one, they extended spring break by a week to try to get ahead of some of the coronavirus issues. One of the members actually contracted the virus, so they closed the Capitol shortly thereafter to give it a good cleaning. When the House and the Senate, particularly the House, was there to consider the 21 budget, they ended up leaving the Capitol before that was decided. So there has not been a budget for the fiscal year 21 done. Constitutionally, that budget is supposed to be through the House, through the Senate, and onto the governor no later than May 8th, which is coming quicker, very quickly. So we don't know this year if they're actually going to get that done or not. There is some talk that they will be called back into special session in July to accomplish that. But at this point in time, nobody really knows for sure. What we do know is that the governor has taken a look at the 2020 budget. He's issued about, I can't remember exactly how many, but withholdings that luckily right now, K-12 is not being included in his withholdings. So we're still in pretty good shape there. The House and the Senate did come back last week. They passed the supplemental budget, which is the budget to kind of correct some issues from the original budget. This supplemental budget started as a $40 million emergency funding package that really ballooned to about $6.2 billion due to the Federal CARES Act. So within that amount of money, there's $1 billion for cities and counties. There's $1 billion for the state's emergency management agency, and there's an extra $300 million for K-12 free public schools in our state. There are also money for higher ed, which is good since they're taking a hit this year with the governor's withholdings. There's $5 million for behavioral services and coronavirus relief agencies, and $900,000 for suicide prevention, just to name a few. So that got settled. That has already been signed by the governor this week. What we don't know for sure is, again, when they're going to come back to pass a fiscal year 21 budget. I did read today that the Speaker of the House wants to get everybody back together in April. There's a lot of people who are saying, whoa, not so fast. We don't know if that's going to work. So the other consideration through all this, without, besides just the public health concerns, is the fact that they don't really even know what numbers to use. Obviously, the coronavirus and the shutdown has greatly impacted the state sales revenue coming in, but they also, with the change in when you file taxes, April 15th, obviously, has been moved to July 15th. That's moved those revenues to be realized in a totally different fiscal year. So they're not going to have that money to count on for this year. So there's just a lot of unknowns. Again, we're looking at a potential special session this summer to come back and pass the budget once they have a better feel, and they're hoping they'll have a better feel by this summer as far as what those numbers would be. So it's been very interesting, to say the least. The one other thing I wanted to update you quickly on is our emergency child care. North Kansas City Schools has offered emergency child care to first responders. So far, we've had 2 brothers that have taken advantage of that program. Their mother is a first responder in Gladstone. So they've been with us for a couple of days a week since probably 2 weeks ago. Prior to that, we didn't have anybody that signed up and said they needed emergency care. So we are ready. We have 4 sites that have been identified that we can call into service. We're on call if needed. We've kind of left it like that through the rest of the school year. We are now looking at this summer. And in fact, enrollment for Summer Adventure Club will start within the next week or so, or next couple of weeks, I'm sorry. And we are looking to see, if the stay-at-home order is still in place, that will have an impact. But if it is not, by the time June rolls around, we will be able to offer Adventure Club to our parents this summer, which I'm sure many of them will greatly appreciate. And with that, I think I'm passing it off to Dr. Gaddy.
Hi, thank you, Tammy. I just wanted to give an update tonight on our hiring and staffing practices. We are going through our busy season just like we typically do, and we're hitting each of those benchmarks in stride. Right now, we are on pace with years past. Out of just over 100 vacancies that we've had, teaching vacancies, we've had 23 internal transfers, and we've hired 71 new teachers. And right now, we're sitting at 14 teaching vacancies. As of tonight, I just got off the phone with someone right before our board meeting for an art position, so we're really excited about that. We have 4 special education openings, 5 high school, 3 at the 6th grade center or middle school, and 2 elementary positions right now. We are continuing moving forward. We know that that's a fluid number and will continue to change, but we feel we have changed some of our practices prior to us having the new reality, and then also with the new reality of virtual interviews, virtual meetings with our teams, getting input from our teachers and principals that way, as well as doing some extra layers of vetting and talking to other folks outside of the district to make sure we're getting the best of the best candidates. So we continue to move on with that. One story I would like to share is gosh, it's been several days ago. They all kind of blend in together. I was talking with a high school teacher, and she had an offer from a neighboring district. She was from Minnesota. And she made her decision based upon the social media and the news feed that she got about North Kansas City schools and all the great things that we are doing for our families and our students during this time. And she felt that we aligned more with her morals and beliefs, and that's why she chose us. So again, great things are going on. The message is getting out to our families and communities and to potential candidates. And so I feel like we continue to have excellent candidates coming into our pool, and we will continue to hire the best of the best for our students. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Fritz.
Thank you, Dr. Gaddy. So I would like to start by kind of along Dr. Clemens' theme of giving us a little background on where we started and where we're at right now. Back on April 3rd, I had sent an update to the Board of Education, kind of with an initial reaction to the closing of businesses and to school and how that might impact us. And I kind of went through a list of items that would impact us immediately and directly. Some of those things are increased expenditures for student devices, hotspots. I know Perry had mentioned we did get some additional funding for that to offset that. Some of the costs of our safety materials and things that we used related to the pandemic, gloves, masks, things like that when we were delivering food. So those are some of the things that increased our immediate expenditures. But we also had decreases in those in expenditures. We were able to shut down our buildings. Chad Evans' group worked with our energy folks and got those buildings on shutdown, and we've been saving quite a bit of funds on not heating and air conditioning all of our 32 buildings. We've also saved money on things like waste management and things like that. Some of the revenue impacts immediately, while we are, Dr. Clemens and this district and the board is committed to paying our people on a regular schedule. I think that has been a great thing to help provide a source of security within the community. And while we've done that, we've also had some savings on things like overtime and things like that. So we are paying our folks on their contracted time, but we also are not incurring overtime and things like that. Let's see. So the other thing I mentioned back in early April I guess it's still early April, but in early April 3rd, some of the things that we didn't know, how revenue impacts would hit us. And what I talked about in that update was our assessed valuation. I had talked about our state foundation formula and our Prop C sales tax revenue, and how those things will most likely be negatively impacted over the long term. But there was also a lot of unknowns, and unfortunately, there's still a lot of unknowns today, as Tammy mentioned in her update with the legislature. The state doesn't even know yet as if they're going to have a budget for us to go off of here in the beginning of May. So we're still working with a lot of unknowns. And then last week, I sent out an update regarding kind of what Tammy covered as far as the supplemental budget for the remainder of this year is K-12 is not impacted in that supplemental budget. There's additional funds through the CARES Act, and each day we're getting more information about what the federal government is doing to support states and local communities with whether it's loans or just direct financial assistance. As we move forward, one of the other things I mentioned last week was I was working on several scenarios because due to the unknowns, we could have a severe impact, a moderate impact, or even a slight impact. And so I just kind of wanted to give you three different types of scenarios, one which obviously is very significant. And I would say, as we look at that number, what we would see going into just next year, we would see deficit spending at about $9 million. And that would bring our fund balance down to about 14%. And that's, again, that is our worst case scenario, if you will. Our moderate or mid-range scenario brings us down to about 16, just a little under 16%, with that deficit spending in about $5 to $6 million. And then if this has more of a slight impact, I can see our fund balance ending. And again, this is, I'm talking the fund balance for FY 21, would be down around 17%, with deficit spending at 2 to 3 million. This current year, we haven't seen major impacts to our revenue sources. The state has continued to fund the formula through March at the 6375 SAT. We haven't seen a significant dip in our Prop C or anything like that to date. So this year, in each one of those scenarios, what I've done for the current year is looked at I've started with the worst case scenario, and in that worst case scenario, we end the current year, our budgeted fund balance percent was right around 18%. And in our worst case scenario, with the immediate impact of lower expenditures and potential lower revenue, our immediate impact is not super destructive to our fund balance. I think we had an 18%, and we would be down around 17 to maybe a little more than 17% at the end of this fiscal year for our new starting point in a worst case scenario. And that's where I kind of started us off in each one of those scenarios going forward. So in keeping in Dr. Clemens' format, that's kind of where we are to date. Within the next 30 days, the big things that we want to do is continue to conserve energy, continue to look for ways to have immediate cost savings right now that don't impact our staff or students to a degree that's harmful to them. Ultimately, as we move forward through this next 30 days, it's going to be important for Tammy to continue to keep up on the legislative process, as well as me, especially with a lot of it's finance related, of course. We need to just monitor what's going on with the overall economy, our local economy specifically, and then what are some of the federal government things. One of the things that came out just today is municipal, shoot, I remember the acronym, it's MLF because it's my initials. But there's a new funding source that the federal government is planning to put out for municipal spending. And I can't find the article right now, so I apologize. But each day, the federal government, the state government are always working towards making the impact of this pandemic lessened at each level. And so I think we have that as a positive outlook. I think we need to be cautious as we move forward into the rest of this year and next year, and continue to stay on top of the things that we don't know, and make sure that when that information comes available, we're on it and there to respond and react. And with that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Clemens for a summary.
Well, I certainly appreciate everybody's report, and I hope that gives the board a little bit better idea of what we're trying to navigate as we continue to move forward. We obviously are looking for all the low-hanging fruit we can grab to put it in our fund balance to survive. I think next year is going to be a little bit better year than the following year. I think that we'll see the stimulus money help us for the next school year, and that certainly won't be in place after FY21. You know, we're fortunate to work with good people. We're all the way from our cabinet through our custodial staff to food service, and we're going to make sure that we continue to move forward. So regardless of when next year starts, we're ready for kids. Some of the things we started talking about is we probably need to start cleaning up our buildings and preparing them for next school year, because it's very likely that we won't be able to start our in face-to-face summer school until July. And if we start face-to-face summer school in July, that means we'll go straight from summer school right into regular school, and our buildings will need to be at a good place when that happens. You know, the one thing that worries me a little bit is I hope we're not causing more stress at home for our parents as we continue to push pretty hard for our kids and hope that they're getting the very best education they can. We hope that we're providing some structure, some learning, and just a little bit of just normalcy, if you will, throughout homes in North Kansas City. I guess I would just end up with, we got a lot of work ahead. We still got to figure out exactly what we're going to do for graduation, what summer school is going to look like, and how to collect nearly 20,000 devices that are spread out throughout North Kansas City. With that being said, I think I would speak for our cabinet and the rest of our employees that we simply just can't wait to see our kids again in person. Although we've been successful with virtual learning, there's just something about walking into a building that's full of kids and adults working together. And so with that being said, Madam President, I'd like to turn it back over to you for questions.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your presentations. And I think everyone would echo, it'll be good to get back to some normalcy with the kids back there. Let's open it up to questions from board members. I cannot see you, so you will just need to kind of take your turns and begin to flow through the questions.
Terry Stone, Jan.
Yes, please.
Question for Chad Evans. Are we providing gloves and masks for our bus drivers and custodians who are delivering the meals?
Yeah, we have been searching high and low for masks. We do have gloves on site. We've been searching for masks since actually spring break. Those are, as you can imagine, were for first responders and health professionals and those folks. So we have gotten some in finally. Director McLeese has gotten those out to the 12 different sites. So we do have a lot of folks bring their own, which is great. We gave them some ideas on how to kind of make their own. I had a friend make one for me, and it works pretty well. But we're actually got some on campus now, and Director McLeese was able to get those out to the buildings.
So that will be mandatory from now on?
Well, we wanted, after the last week on the 9th, I think it was the 9th, the days are kind of getting run together here, but the CDC came out and said it's probably best, and even in public, that folks wear masks. And so we gave that to our folks that were distributing food and gave them some ideas, because we weren't able to provide masks initially because you couldn't find them anywhere. But yes, they have masks out, and they have always been having gloves on. They also get their temperatures checked, and so at all the 12 sites.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Madam President, Stixie Youngers.
Yes, please.
I have just one question, and I also wanted to share gratitude to your staff, Dr. Clemens, for everything that's been done, and thank you for the update tonight. I was just curious what's going to happen with our extended calendar schools, Wynwood and Crestview Elementary, as we progress into the summer.
That's a very good question. Right now, we're planning to start up virtual summer school until we are allowed to be back in the buildings. And so I know Dr. Helvitz and Dr. Sutton are working together to make that transition work.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is Jane Reinhardt. Couple questions. First of all, thanks everybody for all that you're doing. I have lengthy notes, and it's really great that we're doing all of this, quite truthfully. I wanted to ask Perry, how many of the hotspots are we currently missing, or do we have that available for all of our students at this point?
So we have enough hotspots ordered for every student that needs one to have one. We actually ordered a few additional. We overshot it. I've had just in the last 5 days, 3 or 4 families who have come through my office from out of town who are struggling and moving in with relatives. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't just have enough for everybody we had at this moment, but that we had some additional ones, because we know we're going to be getting some additional families.
Okay, thank you. My second question, and this is actually more of a comment that occurred to me while we were doing all of this, you know, how we look like the Brady Bunch with all the little 4 of us on the picture and everything. Could we maybe do, like, go to the big drive-in that's on 291 Highway? Is there any way to do graduation there? I mean, that's really outside of the box, but I kind of like to think there sometimes. And you know, they just give them a little device, and the family sits in the car and they honk the horn when their graduate goes over. We might even make national news. Just a thought.
I like it.
Yes. Yeah, we've heard that some Kansas schools are going to do that. They're going to attempt to have the drive-in graduation. It certainly is something that our principals are considering. I think there's one south, right? One drive-in south that is available, right. And so it's certainly something that is absolutely being considered. Dr. Sutton, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't, but that was certainly one of the options that we've considered. We're seeing some school districts across the country consider that, but very creative and definitely something that we're looking at.
We better look in a hurry because it's going to book up. That's all.
Others?
Jan, this is Terry Ward.
Yes, please.
I would like to, I obviously echo my colleagues and thank all of the people on the team at North Kansas City and the work they're doing. As I share our story with others about the community, usually on a different Zoom than this one, but anyway, they're amazed at what we've been able to accomplish. The feedback I'm getting from parents and families is all resoundingly positive. And so kudos to all of you who are doing the hard and relentless work to get it done and keep it going, and to, as one of our colleagues used to say, monitor and adjust as we go through this process, because that's certainly where we are. I guess the one thought I had, Dr. Hilvet's comments triggered it a little bit for me, but with some of the other things, this isn't a question, it's more of just a pondering, and I will continue to ponder this. But Dr. Sutton was working on Portrait of a Graduate and restructuring our high school delivery systems and all of that. I can't help but wonder what we're learning from this that will become part of the new normal when we have normal. And I'm thinking particularly what Dr. Hilbitz was talking about with the telemedicine and some of those activities, and whether or not that's a way we can more efficiently serve more of our students with those kinds of needs. I wonder if we continue to deliver more of the educational product online rather than face-to-face, what that does to our facility plans. Because right now, all of the facility plans are built on, I'm going to call it business as usual, 25 students in a classroom, an instructor in front of that classroom, and that type of a delivery system. I don't see us going all the way to online, but what kind of blended system will we evolve to? And so, I mean, there are a number of things. So I hope at some point, with all of the free time that everybody has, they will pause and say, okay, what out of this can we harvest as a little bit of a silver lining and as a learning experience that we can make the daily delivery even more effective? Because I think there are going to be some learnings here that we can use. And so I raise that, not seeking answers at this moment for sure.
You know, Dr. Ward, I will tell you that on my cell phone in my notes app, I have a little note that says lessons learned from COVID-19. And so, yes, we are learning a lot of lessons, and lessons that will impact us for years to come. So I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
Right. Who haven't we heard from? Mr. Harrell?
Yeah, I'll chime in. Yeah. First of all, I want to thank everybody for gathering tonight. I mean, the information that was shared tonight was tremendous. I really appreciate it. I know our community appreciates it. More than anything else, in my personal opinion, a tremendous amount of work has been done. But I really do feel the North Kansas City School District is light years ahead of many school districts in our country as we kind of go through this crisis. So that is really the result of tremendous amount of work that's gone into this district for years. And I just appreciate it. More than anything else, I do want to give a personal shout out to Keith Howe and to Eric Sipes, who really helped to build a very robust IT network that allows us to have this platform today. Because without that strong IT network, we certainly couldn't deliver the instruction or the services that we're currently providing. So thank you very much for doing that. More than anything else, again, it's a thank you and appreciation. But again, as Dr. Ward mentioned, and I was going to talk about it a little bit also, is just as we go forward, more than anything else, we'll probably be faced with more of a blended approach. And I guess, like Dr. Sutton said, we're learning lessons at this point in time that will hopefully help us in the future. And my hope is that we don't return to normal, that we return to something better than normal. And again, we have opportunities here. Our entire house has been turned upside down, and now we've got the ability to somewhat rebuild it and hopefully rebuild it stronger than we did before. I think one of the things that would probably be interesting too, right off the bat, that wasn't mentioned tonight would be probably the number of our students who will qualify for a free or reduced lunch when we come back might be greater than what it is today. So that's another consideration as we go forward also. Just kind of the status of what our community is facing, and we certainly need to be aware and recognize those types of hardships that are going on also within our own community. But more than anything else, Mr. Fritz had mentioned our fund balance. And more than anything else, because we have a healthy fund balance, not a wealthy fund balance, we are able to buy ourselves time. And with time, we'll be able to develop plans on how we can rebuild and rebuild stronger than what we are today. So I appreciate all the work that has gone into those efforts. And again, Dr. Clemens, I want to thank you and the entire staff, and on behalf of the board, on behalf of the community. I know how hard everybody is working at this point in time. I just also want to make sure that everybody stays safe also. And again, takes the appropriate cautions that you need to personally to make sure that all of our staff and students do remain healthy through this crisis. But more than anything else, again, thank you. And if there's anything I can do personally to help you, please reach out.
Thank you.
Good.
Madam President,
yes.
I don't really have any questions, and everyone has pretty well summed things up, but I just wanted to add that this new normal that we're calling the time and day of age that we're living in now is really just an action research project in progress. Every day we're collecting data, and Dr. Sutton, you're adding to your lessons learned. And I heard someone say that they were monitoring and adjusting. I think that was Dr. Evans, on a daily basis. When you find something that needs to be adjusted, you monitor and adjust, and that's exactly what you do in an action research project. So again, I appreciate the tremendous amount of work I know that is going into a change that we have made in the last, Mr. Fritz was talking about April 3rd like it was a month or two ago, and that was last week. The monumental changes that we have put in with planning over spring break. There was a little anticipation planning beforehand, but I know most of the cabinet gave up their spring break to really get the boots on the ground to get the plans in motion. So I appreciate the tremendous amount of work and hours that have gone into making our new normal the reality that it actually is, because I truly think we are still delivering a very good educational product to our students. And I'm just amazed at the engagement percentages that were shared from the daily interactions with those that are connecting, and making sure that those hotspots are provided for those that don't have that internet connection, and make those engagements possible. So again, thank the cabinet and all their staff members for all the work that's gone in on the background of all of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. I have just a few questions and maybe a comment. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah. Terry Stone.
Oh, Terry?
Yes.
Do you have some?
Before you summarize, I want to bring up an informal issue, if it's the appropriate time.
Can I ask a few questions about if we're switching gears a little bit?
Oh, sure, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. It's hard when you're doing it in this format. I was curious about specifically some of our special students that are in special programming, and I don't know who might answer this, but I was curious about kids in special ed, some of our SAGE students, kids that are connecting through AVID, and how those programs are still functioning, how the kids are doing in those programs, and what feedback we're getting from them.
So, Madam President, I can speak a little bit to the special education piece. Specialized instruction is a challenge when the kids are in the classroom. It's an even greater challenge to our staff when the kids are at home and they're connecting virtually with them. Our special education teachers and our paraprofessionals are working very hard to make sure that students are receiving the type of specialized instruction that they need so that they can, excuse me, make the progress, the same progress and the same growth marks that our other students are making. There are a few occasions where there are some supplemental aids and services that are impossible to provide or be provided over the internet. So we're going to be scheduling time to make sure that any of that missed service, whether that's an OT service or a PT service, gets made up when the kids do come back.
And then I can speak a little bit with regards to Sage and Avid. Our strategy as we made this transition to e-learning was to continue to provide lessons based on the rotational calendar. And so whatever day a student may have Sage, the Sage teachers are providing lessons and interacting with students on that given day. Same with Avid, as our students would typically have an Avid course on an A or B day. Those teachers are reaching out and supporting our Avid students as well. And I know our Avid teachers have gone way above and beyond to connect with those students, especially our seniors, as they support them in making this transition to college.
Same with the International Baccalaureate program in terms of what we know, how we know the students are finalizing their year with that program.
Yes, and again, kind of going back to the rotational calendar, they continue to support them on the days that they would see them and are preparing them for that transition, especially as our seniors get so close to making that.
Do we have a sense how scholarships are coming in compared to other years for some of our students and where we're at with placements and all of those things?
I might chime in a little on that. Jan Lewis has been here every day processing scholarships, and a lot of these individual scholarship groups are making their selections now. So that work still continues.
The other thing that I was just a little bit curious about was if we're beginning to discuss or think about summer food distribution.
Yes, we know that we have actually talked a little bit already about what our phase 3 approach is going to be. We know that May 22nd is our official last day of school. We do not anticipate that's going to be our last day of food delivery for students. So we've been talking with Dr. Hilvitz and his group to see how we're going to deliver that. And then we're going to come up with a plan on what that looks like of a drop and go, how many locations, in comparatively speaking to what we normally do in the summertime. Certainly it lowers tremendously what we do in the summertime. But that also depends on what our year-round schools are going to be doing. Are they going to be maybe back in July? So there's a lot of moving parts with that. And we'll have a good plan when it comes to what this phase 3 will look like once Perry and his team and Chad Sutton and his team iron out what summer school looks like. We will figure out a way to support that with food distribution, along with we'll go as hard as we can, as long as we can, and as much as we can. That I guarantee you.
I appreciate that attitude.
Madam President?
Yes.
I would just say the USDA waiver has been extended through June 30. So we will be able to feed kids and be reimbursed for that piece. I know Tammy's also engaging Feed Northland and harvesters and some folks to make sure that we have that opportunity as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Then just a couple comments. One, I appreciated Dr. Ward's comments in context with some of the things that we're hearing throughout the metro area. I think we really have done very, very well, and I applaud you all for your leadership team and just everybody rolling up their sleeves and everybody giving it their utmost. It's really served our community well, and I appreciate that hard work, but just also that we had a lot of the right things in place and the right people in place. As we're looking at lessons learned, there may be a few gaps as well of things that could have gone a little smoother. So I really appreciate that critical thinking. I haven't uncovered any yet, but you probably have on the inside. So we appreciate that. And the board, of course, remains ready to listen to those and respond as we need to and as we can. I also appreciated Mr. Fritz's presentation around some of the bigger scale, the Moody reports and some of the big picture things. I think that really helps. And then the scenarios of the three possibilities kind of gets our juices flowing in terms of what we might be getting up against. And I just think that that's a huge responsibility of the board. And I really appreciate you keeping us very proactively aware of some of the wisdom and thinking and facts that you are uncovering along the way. So those are kind of mine. Thank you. Thank you. I totally appreciate the presentations tonight and the time that it took to gather that up for ourselves as well as to share with the community. Now I know, Mr. Stone, you had a comment or a question that you wanted to pose.
Yes, thank you very much. First, let me add my thanks to those of my colleagues. One of the things in my management consulting career was watching leaders that I got to do, for better or for worse, was watching leaders under stress. And your true colors tend to come out in tough situations. So my hat's off to the cabinet, Danny, your team, and the people below the team even, and that the best values of our district have shown through the hard work of all you people. So I appreciate that. Second, in terms of an issue, I was thinking about the June 2nd election. If it still stays there, it's a possibility it might get moved again. But if it doesn't, I'm currently trying to make contact with a legislator who happened to say on a Facebook page I was watching that they had passed a mail-in ballot bill way back when. And I got the impression that it allowed for a jurisdiction like a school district to decide on its own if it wanted to do a mail-in ballot for its own election at a given moment in time. I'm not sure about that, so I'm trying to make contact. But in lieu of that being the case, because it's hard to find an old bill, I don't know how to do it. And I've talked with Mrs. Henderson, and neither one of us is clear on how you pull that off. Just look at random for a bill. My thought is as we put out information about the bond election, is it legal and possible just to encourage people to do an absentee ballot? Number two has to do with health issues, and that's certainly legitimate for everybody. So that might be a way to get people to vote and not have to make a bad choice to get in a line and impact on their own safety.
This is Tammy. I might mention that in Missouri, absentee voting for this June 2nd election is allowed up until June 1st, but you must request an absentee ballot no later than May 20th. So, and those absentee ballots are available on the Clay County Election Board's website, which is www.claycoelections.com.
I would not say this is definitive, but at least at one time, as I recall, the ability to do a mail-in ballot was limited to an issue and could not be used for candidate elections, is the way I recall it being discussed in Missouri. So it was very limited and very narrow and was a jurisdictional decision, but it was, like I said, very limited, if I'm recalling right. And if neither of you, after hunting for it for a couple of days, can find it, I'm just rummaging around in the back of my little pea brain here, seeing what I can find.
Well, could we do it for the bond issue alone, or are they kind of bound together?
We could, I suppose. I don't know, but if we're going to have to do the one, I don't know why we'd separate them. If we got relief on one, then we could do them together. But to try and, I just think of the logistics of trying to go to the public and say, okay, now you can get a mail-in ballot, but that's just for the bond issue. And then you have to show up and vote for the candidates. I think that would be chaotic and would really push Dr. Daniels to the edge of her skill set.
Any other thoughts or comments that the board would like to make tonight?
I'm curious where everybody is on the absentee ballot part.
Well, I think I remember a previous conversation when, this is Judy Wartick, a previous conversation that we had whether, I guess when the, if we were going to continue having our things on the June ballot, and if we did not, we were going to have to pay to have the ballots redone. So if we're going to do something or explore something with pulling things off to have a mail-in, there could be an extraordinary cost associated with that. I just want to caution with the additional cost.
Oh, I agree with that. The absentee ballot wouldn't do any, just leave it the same and would just let people know that they can get an absentee ballot and not have to show up at the polls, and they could be safe and still vote. I don't know if they all know that or not. And can we put out a mailer that kind of gently reminds them they have that option?
I don't want to speak for Rochelle. This is Tammy, but I'm sure we can. The only thing I would also caution about, and again, we don't know what things are going to look like in June. They count the absentee ballots after everything else. So it could have, if we have a ton of people voting absentee, it could change possibly the outcome of the election, what we would hear on election night. I doubt seriously that that would happen, but there is that possibility. But we can, I believe we can let people know.
This is Dixie. Has there been any discussion about moving off of June 2nd into a later date? Has anybody heard that? I have not, but I was just curious if anybody else has.
And you're speaking, Dixie, of outside of our own board decision, but that would be a jurisdiction, right, or county, or government.
Like Governor Parson might,
yes,
move that again, because looks like the data for flattening the curve would move our peak into May or early June, and therefore would not make sense to have a bunch of people out voting, or would be prohibited possibly. Just curious if anybody's heard anything. I haven't, but
I haven't seen any information.
Okay.
It seems to me that we have always done kind of a soft sell that if people are not going to be able to vote on election day, that they do seek a ballot, and made that date part of their awareness. Now that's different probably than what you're saying as a push, Mr. Stone.
Well,
or as a strategy.
I'm okay with a soft information piece that says, don't forget that if you need an absentee ballot, the deadline is May the 20th. I'm okay with that. I'm trying to see the bond gets passed. The other issue will happen or not happen.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any conversation or weigh in on that they'd like to share? All right. Very good. Dr. Clemens, is there anything else in closing the meeting tonight that you have for the good of?
No, I would guess in closing, I would say I'd just like to thank the Board of Education for their unwavering support of the learners in which we serve in North Kansas City. I'm anxious to get something going with graduation. I'm anxious to get something going with summer school, and I'm anxious to figure out how we're going to pick up 21,000 devices. But all of that is small mountains compared to what we've already overcome in many regards of educating 21,000 kids virtually, but yet are very, very important to this community. And we want to make sure we do it the right way and keep people as safe as they can possibly be. So I'm ready to take our next steps. And I just, again, like to thank the Board of Education for everything you guys are doing to support us.
Good. I have no other business tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 28th. but stay tuned because the exec session is scheduled for 6 and 7 o'clock for the regular meeting, and it's scheduled for Doolin. But that obviously could and may very well change here in the next week or so. So please watch for that. We appreciate everyone staying safe and being so supportive of our schools, and love the social media attention, and the numbers are extraordinary in terms of the comments and support online and the support of the district. So we appreciate all of that, and certainly learn through the comments of the community. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we will see you in a couple weeks. Good evening. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.